because it just happened so long ago. I don't know if I briefly saw him here and there, probably, but I have no recollection of anything like that. The next time I encountered him was actually like the worst time. At this point, our group of friends with the cousins and us girls, it has kind of fell apart. The guys just kind of started doing them because obviously they all wanted a girlfriend, they wanted their separate lives, and it's already been established that every type of romantic encounter that could be gained from the mixture of us girls and boys in this close-knit, isolated group, if anything were to happen, it would have already happened 1,000 times over. So people wanted to branch out. Some of my girlfriends kind of started hanging out with other boys, and the cousins also did them. So Sam was dating Melanie at this point, so he was kind of around more often. And as far as Dan goes, I have only met him again maybe 1 or 2 times. It was actually very sad. I was sad for a while that I did not even get to like have my closure with him or anything. It just disappeared like on a high note, which again is a good thing, but I was kind of like having a rough time accepting that, because he really made me feel very good about myself. He really boosted my self-esteem, and like whatever he has done to my just self-image has had a lasting effect, and I feel like that girl every time I deal with men, even if I've made my fair share of other mistakes, but still he has just improved my life by the fact that he was in it for a brief time. And I have met him and his wife once, and we had a nice conversation. I was just walking around with Sam at the time, and we met them by accident, and we just had a nice chat. And the funny thing is that the very next day I was running late to an exam, and I couldn't find the building, and I see this lady standing there, and I'm just approaching her wide-eyed, chaotic as fuck, crazy, because I'm like literally already late to an exam. And I'm just like starting to ask her directions and stuff like that, and this lady looks at me and she's like, we know each other, right? And I see that it's his wife, and I have very bad facial recognition skills. Like, I don't know if that's just me being inattentive or if that's something wrong with my brain, but I'm not good with faces. I would not have recognized her now at all, even like a month later. And so I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. It was so cringy. It was like, of course, the very next day I meet her. Like, it's the day where I attack her on the street, But I believe that the very last time we ever met, it was kind of odd. I feel like I did get some closure, but it's very, very strange. We were at Sam's birthday party at Sam's place, and Jean was kind of crashing there or something. Jean and I were already not talking, already, stopped being friends for good. He's already schizophrenic and stuff like that. He was not even attending that party at all. He was sleeping in his room, and I was glad that he wasn't there. I got drunk with the girls there. There were like new girls around, and every time I meet new girls, I'm just so happy and open, and we were just having a nice conversation. And so I was just matching the girls, drinking shot after shot after shot, and I got shit-faced. That was the drunkest I have ever gotten in my entire life. I feel like you could add every time I was drunk off my ass, and that would still top every encounter together. Like, I was absolutely fucking shit-faced. I was looking for a place to just lay down and fucking fall asleep, but of course the also Sam is like kind of a short king, a little bit, so whatever. So none of the girls there were like my close friends who would have done that, so I think it was Dan, and yeah, I guess that was my closure. I'm just choosing to believe that, I guess. Gus just became an alcoholic, and I don't know what he was doing with his life. He was just drinking it away, I guess. So it was kind of tragic, in a way. And to this day, I still do see Sam occasionally. And every time we encounter each other, it's very warm, and I can see that he is happy to see me and that he misses like the times that we had. He often talks about things like that nostalgically, but we don't interact much at all. I don't have his number. He doesn't probably have my number. Like it is what it is. We're just acquaintances that are very happy to see each other, but it's not that deep anymore. But everyone else, I don't know, like I would say hi, but that's about it. I met Pete, the guitar guy, at Sam's first wedding out of two. And he was kind of like, I don't know, his wife seemed to be very, very jealous. I don't know if he did something to spark that or if that's just how she is. So he did not even like talk to us. We took one picture and he totally overhanded us, like he didn't even want to touch our shoulders for the picture. That was just so awkward. But yeah, I don't know. It was sad that we barely interacted with each other. It was our chance to kind of just, have a nice day, like, but I don't know, it didn't work out. And Sam ended up divorcing that girl like 9 fucking months after the wedding, which is crazy. And now he's married to a lady that is not a girl's girl. She is very awkward and weird around girls. She seems to be very, like, controlling and jealous. And again, I don't know why. It's not my business, but she does not seem like a girl's girl at all. She's not like that with guys. With guys, she's like way more relaxed, but she doesn't talk, she doesn't smile. Like, she's very, I don't know if she's just shy or whatever, but you can be shy and still be friendly, but she isn't at all. So I don't know. So Sam is never around at all. And we girls, we started hanging out with a completely different group of boys, of friends, and that group just deserves another story, because at the end of the day, that ended up being our day one, like our absolute favorite group of friends, and the best things that happened to me happened there. Like, it was just a completely different thing. It was so sunny and amazing and fun and lovely, and yeah, so we were happy as we were. And so, long story short, one day, like maybe a year or so after we stopped talking, Jean just randomly appeared one day when we were out. It was already night, everyone was drunk, we were like drinking vodka, like we were partying it up. Yeah, Jean just appeared out of fucking nowhere, even though he didn't even live where we all lived anymore. And I don't know what happened, but Tina and him kind of decided to have their last rodeo of being antagonistic and shitty towards each other, even though they stopped doing that like a while ago, before the group even fell apart. I don't know why that day they chose to have a go with each other again. I feel like Jean was just full of jealousy and resentment that he lost everything. I feel like maybe he sought us out, maybe he was there for some other reason, and then he would have heard us at night, like 1000%. So I don't know if he was there intentionally or not. I'll just gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and say small world, it was an accident. So he approached us, and the way I think it happened, I'm gonna have to ask Tina if she remembers it, but I feel like he just started it. I feel like he started kind of being smart, and push or whatever too hard, and I just started beating on him too and cussing him out. And I guess Tina and I, we just let loose every bit of resentment and negativity that we have collected over the years, hanging out with this person, being at the receiving end of so much, like, just shit from him. And we just started beating him. I mean, like, we are still 17-year-olds, but it is what it is. He's drunk, we're drunk. It's just so fucking stupid and disgusting. And believe me, it has not escaped me that this is basically us beating up. Like, not beating up, but like slapping and pushing, whatever. Basically a mentally handicapped person. Like, he has schizophrenia and he has it bad. It was really not an okay thing to do. We attacked him first. No matter what he said to us, we should have just walked away. Like, we could have just hurt him so much more if we were just to turn around and go away. He really had his last song and dance with us. He really, like, got under our skin the last time. So I give him that one. And next thing I know, I'm like, maybe I punched him or something. I did like something that I should not have done. And he just turned around, like, on just being in self-defense mode, just automatically turned around and punched me right in the mouth. And it wasn't a hard punch. It was like enough to leave kind of a dent on my lip that lasted for like a day and a half, but no blood was drawn or anything. It did not hurt. It was like nothing. But I remember us just like standing there looking at each other, and we just looked at each other. Like, I saw a surprise on his face, and he probably saw the surprise on my face. And right after that, Tina's older brother, who's like he had kind of a reputation of being this killer machine, but I think he wasn't. He like used to be kind of physically violent with her a bit, and this is why we were scared of, him, because when she returned home drunk, he could like slap her and yell at her and whatever. He also had his own issues with like drugs and alcohol. But I feel like his nickname preceded him, and his nickname was not what people, like, it did not mean what people thought it meant. His nickname was Brick, but it wasn't because he was like, he killed someone with a brick or bashed someone's skull in, or because he was tough as a brick. It was because when he moved to the country where we all live, he was still like the youngest in the group, and every other guy around was like drinking, and they sent him to the grocery shop to buy some wine, and he bought like the cheapest fucking wine there is, like the cooking wine, in this like brick-shaped package. You know what I mean? Like, it's not meant for drinking. He returned with that shit. Those dudes were in fucking stitches, and this is how he earned that nickname. So, long story short, he's of course immediately started beating Jean's ass too. I don't know if someone of us ran to Tina and this guy's house and just buzzed him and told him that he needs to calm down, or if he heard us, because the voices would have absolutely carried through the whole fucking neighborhood at night. And the house is like right next to the place where we were at. Anyway, he came running, and he immediately like punched Jean on the face, started like punching him. And to his credit, like the second Jean was down, he stopped, and he was like, "What the fuck are you doing, beating my sister up?" Like, and yeah, that was like the end of the story. And she's very, very petite and tiny. So she was kind of, again, trying to hold people back and stuff like that. And Jean ended up, by absolute accident, kind of like pushing her or whatever, because she was in the way. She started crying and bawling her eyes out. She's like very dramatic when she's drunk. She started like, I don't know, playing it up like he tried to kill her with a knife, even though everyone knew it was an absolute accident. And Jean loved her. He always like found her very, very cute, and he always left her alone, which I feel like is the best like sign of just respect from Jean. He never fucked with her. He was always good to her. Like, he seemed to genuinely just find her incredibly cute, and like just as a child almost. And he would never have done that. And already before, in one of the fights that we had like years back on New Year's Eve when he started it, she threw herself between his attacker and him and like almost fucking got curb stamped for him, but whatever. So Anne went home before that shit even happened, maybe even before he even arrived, which was a classy move. I remember even then standing there and thinking, Anne is not even here to witness that shit, like, and here I am, like, having been punched on the face. Like, this is why she's like the girl you loved, and I'm like, whatever, because I'm just always here for every type of bullshit. I'm not setting boundaries. Like, what the fuck am I even doing here, you know? And yeah, it was just gross. I really feel bad. Like, I feel bad. And even when, like, right after I got punched, I never felt angry at Jean at all, because I knew that you don't like attack a person and expect them to just hold back and not punch you back. Like, I knew it instinctively that I fucked up and that was my fault, and I still feel this way, and I feel like absolutely no anger at him for that. I laughed it off. Like, the next day I was like walking with Anne, telling her about that. She was probably like thinking to herself how cringe that whole story was. She was like so quiet listening to that, and I had this dent on my lip and stuff like that. I don't know, it was just fucking terrible. But to this day I feel kind of guilty over that. So that was one encounter, the worst one. The next one happened later. I think by the point of both of those encounters, I already met this one guy that I fell absolutely head over heels in love with. Like, I was so infatuated by him. He's like a completely different story time, bro. One time there was some type of a party at my now ex or best friend's place. Back then we were just kind of like just regular girlfriends, same as everyone else to each other. And I was staying over at her place after the party. It was something their parents almost did, and I don't know why the fuck someone met Jean outside and decided to bring him in. And oh, you know fucking what? Something like, am I misremembering that shit? It just came to me. Was it Tina's fucking boyfriend meeting Jean for the first time after Jean punched him, and they started like fighting again? I think that that's what fucking happened. And but if that's what happened, why the fuck would Jean be the one invited up into the apartment? I feel like Tina's boyfriend was outside smoking or doing whatever, and then Jean came around. I don't know, that's not even like logistically what the fuck was Jean doing there. Like, he kind of like once we had laid hands on each other, there's just no going back. It was already so bad between us, and now it's just why go back to trying to repair it? It's already been irreparable. Why the fuck, you know? And I was just like cutting him off, just leaving, not wanting to talk to him at all. And like it made me feel like strong, and it made me feel good about myself, like this fuck you to him. And then I just kind of started feeling great, making him feel like shit. And again, I was drunk, and this neighbor lady was kind of mocking him. They were having this back and forth, and I was just like laughing at everything she said. I was like giving glances to my best friend and just being kind of mean girlish. Like way late at night, he just went home finally, because we were kind of like trying to get him to leave, and he just wouldn't. He was so annoying, like he was being very intrusive and annoying. So yeah, that was the second time. And then the third time was so fucking awkward. Anne and I, it was already like much later, Anne and I were in this small Asian shop, and who fucking enters? Gene. And he's buying like a huge bottle of fucking vodka, and he had some like alcoholic friends with him. It was so fucking awkward because that shop was tiny and there was nowhere to hide. Anne and I were just like, and then obviously he noticed us, and we were so awkward. We did not want to say hi to him for obvious reasons. He looked fucking terrible. He shaved his head, you know. He got like but he got big, like much, like twice the size. Not like morbidly obese, but like surprisingly just swollen. Like he just looked like he had edema. It's always very weird because the second you look at him, he's extremely unrecognizable. He doesn't look like himself. But then something would just hit you, and you'd be like, oh, and all his features just come together. Then he finally left, so we felt comfortable moving on with our like shopping, whatever. Bitch, he entered that shop again and went through the whole motion again, and we knew that he did that just to annoy us and just to get under our skin and to make us feel uncomfortable. That's just so classic Gene, of course. Again, a huge time jump. The girls, I remember us all sitting in my living room around the table, and my phone rings. And I did not recognize the voice at first, but I remember thinking that this was like a pleasant, nice voice, because Gene did have a very pleasant, nice voice. And then, like, the voice just says, hi, Sadie, do you recognize me? And in the middle of my mouth, forming the words that I understood who it was, and like I just, without thinking, I just said, oh, Jean, is that you? And I said it so nonchalant, and every girl just looked at me like, what? And Anne was there, Tina was there, like everyone was there. They like looked at me, eyes huge as plates. And they, like later they remarked on how nonchalant I sounded. But that's what I do when I'm nervous. I sound like more just chill. It's like a defense mechanism. I have always done that, even as a child. I've always been good at it too. So, and he's like, yeah, it's me. So how have you been? And I'm like, good, thanks. And he's like, would you be down to meet up and just, talk? And I was like, no, I don't want to talk to you, Gene. And that was that. And he was like, oh, okay, well then, bye. And I was like, bye. And I hung up. Because there was nothing to say, like. And then there were just very brief encounters. One time I met him It's just more sad than anything at this point. I kept hearing stories about him. My best friend has started finding fucking flowers, some like flowers arrangements on her balcony. She lived on the ground floor. To this day, we don't know who that was that did that. None of the guys we were like in touch with admitted to that. We just did not know who that could have been. And then years down the line, she found like some perfume at her door. So we really don't know who that could have been. And we just always assumed it was kind of Gene, because he would be the only weirdo we could really imagine doing that. Like, my best friend has had no like secret admirers or anything. No one came out of the woodworks, or we would have peeped that shit. And we just could not find a better culprit, so we just assumed that it was him. And the way the flowers were arranged, it was like elaborate, and we could imagine him performing some kind of ritual, because at this point he was like all about that shit. So yeah. He had an apartment and he lived with his grandma, which I feel like was taking care of who here. It wasn't a good mix at all. And it was extremely sad, because one day she just didn't wake up, because she was like already old, and she just passed away in her sleep, and he had to be the one to find her, which I know is fucking traumatic. I called Sam to, say my condolences, but I never called Gene. Even if I had his number, I probably would not have. I don't know. Maybe that was fucked up of me. I don't know. After that, he got himself a little bird, a little parrot or something. And it might sound like cartoonish or whatever, but it's not funny at all. It's so fucking sad. One day he like walked out of the shower and threw his towel on the chair or something, and then he just sat on the chair later that day, and he did not notice that the bird was underneath the towel, and he killed it. And I don't know, my heart just goes out to him every time I remember that story. That's just genuinely very tragic and sad. To find that you have done this to your pet is just fucking traumatic. And especially for a person that's already dealing with a lot of like mental issues, that must have been hell for him. Like, maybe, I hope that maybe his disease kind of sheltered him from it by imagining some type of scenario. I don't know. And then one time was a very, very weird encounter. At this point, Sam was still dating Melanie. Melanie and I were not like close or anything, but I would be, for some reason, the person she called when she was in distress. One time she called me because she and Sam had a huge fight, and I walked with my then boyfriend over to her place like an hour and a half by foot at 6 o'clock in the morning, because no buses were yet active, just to like be here with her. And we day drank and then walked home drunk at like 12. And one time she called me at night or in the morning, and she was like, Sam and I, we were staying over or living or whatever at Gene's place, while Gene was in some type of mental institution at the moment. He used to have this like phases, and then he would just run away all the time. And she told me that she woke up because she had terrible nightmares. She felt like this place was haunted. She couldn't catch her breath. The whole night was just terrible. She felt like there was something supernatural going on. And one other crazy story Melanie also told me was that much later, when she and Sam has already had their child, and their child was like a year old at the time, Gene came demanding to meet his niece and all. I'm her wants to talk to me, and he has his hands like open almost for like a greeting, or like, subconsciously for a hug or whatever, and he looks genuinely happy to see me, and I don't know who this person is. I'm looking at this person, and then I'm like, again, this moment of recollection where everything falls back into its place, and I'm like, oh Jean, let's not. It just rolled off my fucking tongue. I don't know why I said it like that, and I just continued walking as fast as I could. Man, I don't know why he wanted to talk to me. Tina would end up having an encounter with him, but he would also act like he's very happy to see her. So I feel like he was genuinely like starved for some old faces, and maybe he really wanted to like catch up again. I don't know, but I was not having it. Something about me being pregnant, it just made me run, because I'm not, I don't know, maybe that's ableist of me, but being around someone I already don't trust, someone I already like am not sure is like harmless to me, because he had all the reasons to be upset and to have bad blood with me, and I know for a fact that this person in their best of times would have been capable of something weird, but now this person also has like schizophrenia, and I'm pregnant, like, and my belly is right there. It's like warm outside, it's covered by like a small piece of fabric. I'm not doing that shit. I just did not take those chances, and I would have done the same thing 1,000 times over. So yeah, and that was, to my best recollection, the last time I ever saw Jean. And I don't know why, but something just tells me that I'm not ever going to see him again, and I have this feeling that due to his lifestyle and alcoholism and untreated mental illness and just his spiral of I don't know even what type of other drugs he's probably taking, I feel like he's not gonna have a long lifetime, just statistically speaking, and I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. If I will cry or not, I don't know, but I will feel bad, and I do feel bad, and I do feel like even though he deserved some comeuppance, he did not. No one deserves the rough hand that he has been dealt at all. Starting with his mother's passing, and then the tragic thing that having to find his grandmother dead, and having to find that he killed his own bird, and then this mental illness which is so fucking terrible and insidious. So one day my best friend and I are chilling at my place, and Tina calls my best friend just to chat, and she starts telling us this whole story about how she met Jean in town, and she was just so shocked by how bad he looked, and he just unloaded on her. He asked her if she was down to sit down with him for a bit just to catch up. She felt so bad for him that she just agreed to. She sat down, and he just told her a bunch of stuff about his life, and she was just very much overwhelmed by the amount of information he just let loose on her. She ended up giving him like 30 euros or something, like just pocket money, like booze money, whatever, because I believe he asked her for some money or something. It was just very embarrassing, and maybe he was like complaining about how broke he was. She just, this is how bad she felt for him. So you can imagine how terrible that story must have been. So it was just a bunch of fucking nonsense, but he did talk about how he has had this girlfriend and she was fucking psychotic. So one time they were fighting and she warned him all of a sudden that she will kill him because they were drunk off their ass or something. And then like sometime later he woke up to her fucking sticking a fucking knife or some sharp object in his abdomen, and then she fucking stabbed him a bunch of times, bro. And he actually had a wound to show for it. He showed Tina that he has this permanent hole in his fucking stomach. For all her toxicity, she's not a mean person and she's not mean-spirited, so she just sat there for like an hour or so, just completely captive audienced by him and listening to his rambles. But she just did not want to leave because she felt so bad for him. She thought that he seemed extremely lonely and that he was very happy to talk to her, which again confirms our last meeting, because he looked like he wanted to jump on an opportunity to talk to someone. He also said that, and honestly, that pissed me off. This is where he got me. Like all those years, I thought that I did not give a fuck about this man. He managed to fucking get me. So Tina was starting to tell how, he doesn't barely remember his past, and he barely remembers our names. The only one he remembers would be like Anne and Tina, and one other random girl that that he barely talked to at all. Like it was just so odd, and I was like just sitting there listening to that, and I was actually upset with myself because I noticed myself just getting like pissed off about that. Because what the fuck do you mean? Like you don't remember? This is like, wow. Lucky you, I guess. You get to just do all kinds of shit. And the only closure I've had from our story is that I fucked you over at the end. I ended up the one you were like chasing after, even if it wasn't romantic anymore, but still, like, I was the one rejecting you at the end. I was the one who betrayed you at the end, and I ended up like glowing the fuck up. I ended up becoming like, on my good day, like a beautiful woman. And guys were chasing after me and shit like that. If he saw me now, I know for a fact that he would have died back then for a girl like me. And stuff like that. That was all like the closure that was sufficient for me to counteract, the trauma, I could say, or just the impact that he's had on me. I felt vindicated. I felt like he had nothing but memories because his life just stagnated and completely imploded in on itself. I thought that he would sit on those memories and regret the things that he did. I'm just being honest. Of course, that's how I ended up recovering from this whole situation. But now he claims that he doesn't remember. It's kind of shook the foundation of my whole recovery. Now that he just got away with it basically and discarded me yet again. Like he just ended up winning in my eyes. In that moment I was like, wow, yet again I'm discarded by him. I'm overlooked by him and I'm forgotten by him. Like, wow, he gets to win this last time. I was honestly more pissed off than I thought I would be. It wasn't like rage or seeing red or like crying or anything, but it did, for this evening, ruin my fucking mood. I gotta say, and it stuck with me for like a couple of days, just in my head. Like, I told my boyfriend this. I was like, he gets to just forget the abuse and the fucked up manipulation that he was part of and that he did to me, and like, it's just not fair that I get to remember. Like, how about I forget that shit? Why would I be the one stuck It might sound like a cope, and it might actually be, but this guy went above and beyond to fuck with people's heads. He did confide with me like a bunch of just mental tricks he did on people. He did try and teach me how to manipulate people, how to move them on a chessboard and stuff like that. He did instill a lot of that in me, unfortunately. This is why I ended up, losing my friends for a while and stuff like that. Just because he did partake in that type of shit. He wanted to play people like a fiddle. He knew the buttons to push, and he had a lot of free time on his hands just to fucking sit and think about that, It's not like he's a busy man. All he has is time, and he's never worked, so he just sat there, and his mind was just restless and just going through the rounds, and of course he would come up with some bullshit. And I just thought to myself, man, like, he knows damn well Tina cannot keep anything to herself. He has mentioned to me verbatim that whenever he wanted some information to just, leak, he would tell Tina. He knew that Tina would just come running and telling everyone this story and this and that. It's not that far removed from reality that he would intentionally say hurtful shit like that to her just to fuck with me, because that did not dawn on me, but only for what Tina said next. So within that sentence about how he barely remembered our names and this and that and the third, he told her that he was grateful that she, stopped to talk with him, because one time he met me. He also called me by my name, so one day I met Sadie, and she just brushed me off. She was thinking that she's too good for me, and ever since then I don't want to fuck with her no more. Stuff like that. So you know my name. So you do remember some random interaction that we had that lasted 2 seconds tops. But then again, you don't remember that I exist. It just made no sense to me. At first I was so, to my shame, I'll be the first to admit it, but at first I was so overwhelmed with this disappointing feeling that he gets to just forget about all the shit he did, how he alienated people that cared about him, that put him first, that genuinely wanted him to be happy. I thought that he gets to live with that. So at first it did not even click in my head, but then just a couple of days later I was like, either he does not remember me, or he has a grudge and he is feeling upset that I brushed him off, and he just used her as a mouthpiece to just say hurtful shit to me that he knew is just not nice to hear, to anybody. You don't need to be a mastermind to just figure out that saying to someone who genuinely cared about your well-being, whether or not he was with me or not. I was really on his side all the time. I was supportive of him all the time. And to hear that I don't really exist anymore, that I've been erased from his brain, of course that would suck. So either he just said this shit to upset me or to get to me, this last revenge, or I don't know, but I don't really, anything can be possible. And it's very interesting for me to confront the feeling, because what if he forgot about me? What then? Moral of the story, I feel is age gap relationships are dangerous. You really need to be sure that the person you're dealing with has a lot of moral integrity and is honest with themselves and has your interests in the back of their mind when they're making decisions, because they have a very big advantage on you. It's very easy of them to use this advantage and just lie to themselves, and they just make themselves feel like they're not doing anything wrong, and just allow themselves to use you and use your naivete sexual things with me, even though he was not sexually attracted to me. It's just crazy. The more you give them, the less you mean to them, and the less they want you, the more they just want the resource that you have to offer. So ever since then, I have never again dealt with any guy that was like meh about me. Like, I've dealt with one guy that I've fallen like madly in love with after him, but I that's kind of a different story, because this guy was like also like not mentally sane at all. I'm just gonna tell his story at some later time, but yeah, that might be like the only exception. But other than that, I have never allowed guys to treat me any type of way from this point on. And actually having this audio diary really helped me sort through those feelings, because it's not like I go around retelling my whole life story to people. I never really had a chance to put all my ducks in a row and tell this story from the beginning until the end. So it helped me kind of send all those feelings through my rational brain and filter all those emotional backlogs out, and finally just have a clearer picture of what really happened and put things into perspective. There was actually a moment when I was recording like the worst part of the story where I felt a little bit like that kid again, and I felt a little bit down again, just because I guess it just transported me back in time, and I just felt so small and invisible, and I started seeing that everywhere. But I guess that's just natural. I guess I just really needed to relive those moments. But now that I have recorded it and I'm finished telling the story, I actually feel better. I don't know. I think it needs just time for the dust to settle. But I feel like it has been very therapeutic for me to talk through those events and those feelings. So if you have listened to parts of the story or the whole deal, which I'll doubt that there's one person that listened to all of it, which is fine. It's more for me. But I hope you at least found it soothing or maybe interesting. To finish the story off, I would just give a small recap of where everyone's life is at the moment, and then I feel like we can be finally finished with this whole ordeal. So Sam, as I've mentioned, is now married. Pete has been married, but then he got divorced, and he ended up being like a sleazebag, texting my best friend who used to be very in love with him like 20 years ago, and she made it known. She bought him a golden ring. It was actually like crazy. He just texted her to text her, and he just disappeared the second she wasn't readily available or something. So it was just like very weird of him to do so. He was like pretending that it's for all time's sake, and like, oh, you know, say hi to Sadie and everyone else from me and stuff like that, but he never reached out to the rest of us. He was only texting her, the girl he knew or he thought would be like, I guess, readily available. It was just such a weird thing of him to do. I don't appreciate that. And now they're like not talking again. So this dude like just turned up 20 years later just to waste her time. Gus has been married to this like girl once who, for some reason, someone told her that we used to I don't know, date is the wrong word, but we used to like each other. So she was like so jealous, even though we were not even in the same friend group at all. She was basically Gus's wife, and she was also Sam's bestie. And one time my guy best friend approached me and told me that he was hanging out with Sam once, and this girl was around, and she was trying to talk shit about me, saying that I'm making attempts to flirt with Gus Gus. And I was just so confused by that because it was so long ago that Gus and I were dealing with each other. It was years and years and years in the past. She got it into her head that I was putting on makeup one time while we were at the lake. She thought that it meant that I was making myself pretty because Gus and her have arrived. And I was just like, girl, we're not even in the proximity of each other. I'm just ugly, I need a boost. What the fuck? It was ancient history at this point. I don't even know who even told her about me. We were not in the same friend group. I barely saw Gus ever. The only reason I ever encountered this girl and learned her name was that she was Sam's friend and Sam was my friend. And I had just no correlation with Gus at this point at all. So for her to be so jealous, it just made her seem very insecure. One time she came around when I was hanging out with my girls and she was being all friendly and all of that, and I'm just cordial. I'm never gonna pretend that we're like besties if I know you talk shit about me. So I was just like nonchalant and cordial with her. But then everyone kind of left to get something and she got me when I was alone, and she was just like, oh, your best friend, he was trying to spread rumors that I talk shit about you and I don't know if you've heard. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard. And I'm just listening to her like, yeah, let me see what you got to say. Like, she was like, no, in case you've heard something that's not true. And I was just like, he is a good guy and he's my best friend. I really don't believe that you go around spreading rumors. So let's just, not even continue with that. All this bark and none of the bite. Like, the second I came around in person, she was all mushy with me. So I'm just like, girl, get it together. Let's talk about Melanie. She is the most tragic case. I guess Gus also is because he ended up divorcing that girl and he's now on his own. But Melanie, he got pregnant by Sam after like years of them dating. Everything was fine. They stayed together for a bit, but then he just dumped her again. And he claims that she started drinking even back when they were together, but I guess my headcanon is that when you're with a man that does not appreciate you, that does not love you, that has already betrayed you and can betray you any day again, you just lose it. Like, nothing breaks a woman more than an unreliable man that you love that's next to you. And he just put it all on her shoulders that she was an alcoholic and this and that. It's actually vile. Like, the way he handled her was just so callous. One time at a club, they were already broken up, so they kind of just met in a club by accident, and Tina was there with Melanie, and he approached Tina and he was like, can you take care of your friend? Well, that's your ex, mother of your child. Like, if anyone should be worried about her, that probably should be you first. She kind of started falling off. I think she was just ashamed of the state she was in. And now Tina and my best friend told me like horror stories of her drinking. Her neighbors constantly complain because there is just like a lot of chaos and yelling and fighting. She has a son. He was born a girl, but he came out as transgender very, very, very early on. I'm talking like preschool. And of course, us being from a small town, that was like news to everybody. And I really pity her. She probably had to hear a lot of fucking dog shit from people who had no business talking. She probably had to deal with so much shit from people. I can only fucking imagine how she just stood her ground and she protected her child and she assisted him in his transition, and he has had a name change. He presents as a boy, has presented as a boy for the longest time now, and even though she had like various slip-ups. She would constantly say she, but then again, she would be like really, fighting for his rights. I don't know. She was just, she was doing her best. She was confused. She wasn't like in the know about this whole thing. So I really sympathize with her, and I really like celebrate her for how she fought for her child. And now Tina tells me that some random women appeared at Melanie's doorstep and ended up beating her up because she, I guess, slept with like their husband or whatever. So it was just like, yeah, I don't know. I made my effort to reach out to her, but she doesn't want to. Like, alcoholism keeps you lonely. Melanie is not per se my cup of tea as a person, but she never deserved that. No one deserves that. Tina is now married. She has had another child by this random dude that she met. That was also like a crazy story. We were just basically at my best friend's birthday party, and there were different people there that we didn't know. Even though we weren't hanging out with Pete and Sam much, they would at least come to birthdays and stuff. So they came to my best friend's birthday, and basically they got into a fight with this like different group of guys. Tina ended up hooking up later on with one of those guys. She like ended up starting to date him like the very next day. Then Sam and Pete and the rest of them demanded like money from him because I guess their phone or something got cracked during the fight. So they were like pressuring this dude to give them money, and he got fucking scared of them. And Tina ended up giving Sam her money for this dude. I guess he reimbursed her later, but wow, like that's so romantic. That's how you know you have got a keeper. It was just so random and so cringe. And they started dating, and she got pregnant very early on, and they broke up immediately after. And basically her whole pregnancy he wasn't around, and yeah. But then she ended up meeting her now husband, and she has 2 more kids with him, and he's like a decent guy, a good father, whatever. Like he's equally as crazy as she is, but they are a good fit. Then as far as Anne goes, she's currently pregnant with her second baby. She's married, literally about to give birth any day now. We're still in touch. We don't see much of each other. We were like very close friends for a while after the whole thing with Jean ended, but unfortunately our friendship kind of fizzled out, and I've always felt that it was for the most part my fault because I just wasn't mature enough. We really click together very well. Our sense of humor is very similar. We're very cynical, and we just get each other. And from time to time, she would just say something, or I would say something that would remind us of our old ways, and we would just like look at each other and laugh and just understand each other. And also the guy she's married to, when we first met, I was like maybe a couple of weeks together with my boyfriend. We just came together, and we had serious troubles communicating, and I was mad at him. And when her future husband came around, he started like flirting with me and whatever, and I started flirting with him back. And it's just so cringe to think about that, because of course after he continued texting me the next day, I kind of blew him off, and he just immediately jumped over to Anne, and now they're married, and it's just like, ugh. And honestly, I don't really like that guy. I'm gonna say we're like cats and dogs. We're polar opposites in the ways we communicate. I think he might be slightly autistic or something, because I just don't like how he speaks to people, and he probably doesn't like me either. Even though we've had moments where we were genuinely like enjoying each other's company and had very nice conversation and stuff like that, but I don't know, we just don't click well at all. And one time my boyfriend got shit-faced, and this guy like tried to tell him off and stuff like that, and I was just like, yo, mind your fucking business and leave him the fuck just, yeah, it did not help Anna's friendship, but she's happy, and I really hope that her baby comes to this world healthy and that everything goes well. And my best friend, she's not doing so hot currently. She's again in her depression era, which has already happened a couple of times, where she's completely withdrawn from society. She doesn't reach out. She does not answer to invitations in the group chat. She doesn't want to participate in our lives at all. She does not text me. I don't text her. And yeah, she's just not happy with how her life turned out to be. And it's very, very unfortunate that she was the one who really wanted children the most. And she's like the perfect wifey. So it's just very sad that that's the only girl in our group that still has no children and that's still single, and that there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's wrong for her. She does not enjoy that life, and I really sympathize with that, and I know that it's very hard out there. It's very hard to find a good partner, and I really appreciate that she doesn't want to just get together with some douchebag just to be unhappy. She really wants her life to start on a right foot, so I hope that happens to her when it's time for that to happen, and I really wish her the best, since she has, abandoned me a couple of times already. Not that she's done it again. I am just numb to that. I don't feel anything. I'm just suppressing those feelings because I have felt those feelings before, and I am just no longer interested in hurting my own feelings again and again and again with her. I have just accepted her resignation as my best friend, honestly. We have always had trouble communicating negative emotions, and I guess it's just an inherent flaw in our friendship that just made it not long-term material, and that's okay. I really wish her the best. There's no bad blood between us, but I no longer consider her like something other than a good acquaintance and an old buddy. I don't consider her my best friend, and I have made all the attempts to contact her back in the day, and I have made one attempt now, and that's all I'm gonna do, because at this point I feel like an intruder. I feel like I'm pressuring you to do something you don't want to do, and I'm not about that life. I have had experience trying to save people that don't want to be saved, including but not limited to Jean, and it's not something that's so simple. I'm not the only person in her life that loves her, that likes her, that she can reach out to, so I hope that she's doing well. So, not to finish this video off on this sad note, I really want to say that I am happy that I still am friends with the majority of the girls from the whole story. All things considered, I still feel like I came out unscathed. It could have been so much worse. There were so